Hi, everybody. We're going to get started. Sorry, that means the music stops for now, but we'll try to give you more at the end if we have time. My name is Dan Pardes. I am the VP of Product here at Meetup. I want to also introduce a product manager on my team, Mike Bass. Do you want to say hey, Mike?
Hey everyone, my name is Mike. When I hear that song, I think of being at the carnival in my hometown in the Midwest, and I feel like myself. So thank you all for enjoying that together.
I'm glad it brings up good memories. So I want to give you a little bit of information about us, and I wanted to give a quick tour of the Zoom features you're looking at if you're new to this. So we have a chat in here, which I can see people saying hello. Thank you, and thank you for letting us know where you're from. It's nice to see where everybody is, both to understand your time zones and also understand sort of where Meetup is affecting people, which is great. There is also a Q&A window in Zoom. It looks like two little chat bubbles overlapping. If you click on that, that's where we're going to take questions that we'll answer in this session. If you put a question in the chat window, we'll likely miss it. So make sure you post it to the Q&A window and we'll get to those. We also have a phenomenal support person from our team here who will be answering questions in the Q&A window. So if there's a quick answer to your question, it's like, yes, here's an article on how to do that. They will post it there. You should all be able to see answers we give when we type them. So hopefully that will help you see what's being answered in real time while we talk. And also we'll try to indicate which ones we're answering live, so you have a sense of that too. Today, we are going to try using polls in Zoom. We haven't done this in our webinars before, but we would love to figure out how to get input from you in real time. So, and it's very appreciated if you want to give us your opinion. Obviously, not everyone has to click an option, but the more people who answer, the more of a sense we get of what you're thinking and feeling. So, we are here today to answer questions openly and honestly about what we're doing. But as a person in charge of making sure that Meetup is working on the right things and shipping real value to you, I wanted to make sure I very clearly said, we're not going to comment on specific dates or roadmap details. That's not because we're avoiding committing to something to you. It's because our roadmap is living and shifting, and it's part of what we do every day to prioritize and reprioritize our work based on many factors, including what you need most urgently. So I don't want to misspeak or set unrealistic expectations. So when we know a date, we'll obviously share it. In fact, you can see when we share specific dates, you'll see an article come out on the blog, or we'll very publicly mention it. So those do happen. This forum is more about what we're working on, and some of those don't have hard dates. So we can talk about what we're committed to and what we see in our not too distant future. But I wanted to stress that we're not going to get into specific release dates here. If you ask about a specific release date or a specific feature that we are working on, I'm not trying to be cagey. It's likely that if we don't have a specific date yet, that's why I'm not mentioning it. So we'll try to give you a sense of, the priority of the things that we're seeing in front of us and how much impact we see them having. So just a sort of a beginning way to understand what we're talking about today. And also, thank you for your patience. We're probably going to have more questions than we can answer all at once. We will try to answer as many of them in the session as possible, and then as many as possible on the blog afterwards. We'll also post a recording this afterwards on the blog. It's meetup.com/blog. If you go there, you can subscribe to a little newsletter that will tell you when we publish new stuff, including this recording. So we have been looking for ways to make these events more interactive and honestly feel a little bit more like what we would do in person. And one of the things we really miss about this is we can't see all of your faces. And I can't hear all of your voices, although all at once that might be overwhelming. Still, seeing that there's real people here would be fantastic. So we were toying with making this more of a regular meeting where you can see everyone in a big grid view. There's a practical limitation to that. So that brings us to our first poll. If we record these sessions so we can share them with people, that means if you were on video, your face would be on a recording. And we don't want to share your recording again, your face in a recording online without getting your permission. So we understand you're not every organizer, but we wanted to get a sense of the room that if we did this face-to-face, would you be comfortable letting us share a recording? And then based on this and some other places that we'll ask, we'll try to understand how to better make these events more interactive. So you can take a minute, you can answer that. We can see results coming in, and when we end the poll, we'll share it with you. I'm not sure if we'll be able to share every result while we're talking. We're going to try to prioritize updates and then your questions. So if we get to more polls, fantastic. If we don't feel like you're missing something. But this is great. Thank you. So many people have answered. This is awesome. In the 45 seconds I've been babbling about this question, we've had almost, I don't know, we're getting close to everybody having answered. So thank you. That was way cooler than I thought it would be. I'll give it another second, and then wow, I can see it moving in real time. It's quite quite interesting to watch. But we'll share that in a second. I'll go on to the next slide. Maybe we can come back to that. Let's see, what's next? I have a lot of windows on my screen, by the way. Sometimes I lose the most important one. Sorry about that. You'll notice me say that's usually it. Again, because I think it's on everyone's mind, it's certainly on my mind. One of the great things about Meetup is that we are everywhere. We're in 190 countries, I think, and that's fantastic. Being all around the world means that we have organizers all around the world building communities and making decisions for their communities. So we created the option for online meetups so that our communities could continue to meet when in-person events weren't safe. But as we're seeing restrictions get lifted, we're looking to local experts for guidance on when it's safe to meet in person again. Meetup is here to help, so we're not leaving this all to you with no assistance, and we're creating resources to share with organizers for making the transition back to in-person events as seamless and as safe as possible. But I want to stress that we're looking to your local guides to understand where that line is. And I wanted to also reiterate that online events are here to stay. So where those are working, keep doing them. We love to hear about how those are working and how you're thinking about using them as you begin to host in person again. So we're going to create a short survey that you can share with your members to get their take on this. And we will share that with you after this so that you can try to understand how members are feeling about meeting in person. And we'll try to share those results in aggregate and with you about your groups. Also, I want to share that our trust and safety team is always working behind the scenes when our members and communities have concerns. So if you see something in the upcoming weeks, months, really ever that concerns you, worries you, or you just think that Meetup needs to be aware of, please reach out to our team here, our support team. Have real humans who will look at every single request and make sure they get escalated if they need to, or that they address your concerns. Meetup knows how important meeting in person is and how important it is for our recovery as groups of people who like to see each other. But we want to go about it in a cautious but encouraging way. So we want to get back to meeting in person. But again, we're asking you to look at your local guidelines, and we will be also trying to provide content and opinions on this and guidance as we can. But really, we're deferring to local guides to understand when it is safe to meet in person. So just wanted to address that before we got too far in, since it's something that we've been talking a lot about at work. Before I go to the next thing, I wanted to share, let's see if this works. Mike, I'm going to hit the button that says share results, just so you can all see this. It's a test of a thing we're doing. So there we go. We're sharing poll results. I can't see what you see, but what I see is that 72% of people said, sure, we'd be willing to sign a release, and 28% said no. There's no like winning and losing or majority takes all. Everyone would have to sign a release or not have their video on. So we'll talk about it internally. We'll ask more organizers, and we'll start to figure out if we can do this for some of our future meetings. So thank you so much for participating in that. Let me move on to Mike and I are going to share a couple updates from things we think are really relevant and that we have heard from organizers they'd like to know about and from our community at large. And then we're going to take Q&A for half of the time or something like that. So this one's on me. I want to talk about something that we've actually done a lot of work on, but we haven't shared widely. And the reason we didn't start sharing about this is because we were learning but couldn't prioritize the work to get it to all of you. So we've been talking to organizers as we normally do every day through surveys, support tickets, emails, events. And we heard loud and clear that we are not doing well enough for you on communication tools, basically with ways for you and your members to speak. And so if you're on the member side, sometimes it's hard to talk to organizers and know which things from organizers are important. And as an organizer, it's hard to cut through the noise and make sure certain important things get to your members, or even which tool to use for which message. Organizers overwhelmingly told us they want reliable, simple, and engaging tools, or a tool. So that was really clear input, and we heard it almost universally. So we did what we typically do. We built something. We built a pilot. It was an iOS only, and we called it Member Chat. And you're looking at a little animation of it on the right. We were able to offer features that matched or exceeded what you're probably already using on Meetup, but certainly even elsewhere. So we had like a really clean interface. Messages from organizers looked distinct, so they cut through the noise. We had real-time notifications on people's mobile devices. So if you had an iPhone and you were in this, you would get a notification when you got a message directed at you. We had real-time read receipts, so organizers and other people could tell when someone had received their messages. We added emoji reactions at the end because everyone likes to put smiley faces and thumbs up on things, including me, or other emojis, which I won't mention here. So one thing I got questions on, why was this only iOS? And why was it just a pilot? A lot of organizers who talk to us like, this is great. Why can't I have this right now? So by building on only one platform first, we were able to move faster and get something into the hands of organizers quickly so we could learn as fast as we could, which is also why it was just a pilot. We needed to learn how to balance these features for Meetups and its communities so we could figure out how to plan for this and how to build it in a way that would work across all of the types of Meetups that exist. So one question would be, why are you mentioning this now? It's been a couple months since we ran the pilot. What's going on? First, I just wanted to say in this opportunity where our product folks get to speak to the people using the product that we hear you and we want you to know that we heard your feedback. Davis, who Janine and our CEO David met in San Mateo, Davis wrote earlier in our event comments about the suboptimal subject lines. When you send an email through Meetup, it gets like prepended with a big string. So it's hard to see your members, it's hard for them to see what's in their inbox and they often zone it out. And I think he said in the comments, if I could communicate with my members, we could weather this interim period while Meetup reinvents itself. So that is why we're working on this now, or prioritizing this now, which is communication is core to community, and we need to improve our tools for you so you can continue to support your communities. Sure, having to meet online and not in person has put stress on the communication tools, but in general, it's a core service that we need to make better for you, and the feedback has been heard loud and clear. Just to help you understand how we're working, this won't happen overnight, but we're committed to getting a solution like this to you as quickly as possible. It's not always easy to see big changes coming through Meetup before they end up on your plate. And so really one reason to share this now is, as we start to work on something, I'm really aspiring to bring it in front of you and as many people as we can, so you can both give us feedback if you have it, and share your experiences if you have them and you haven't already shared them. And also so you know what's coming, so that you're ready to take that into your hands and use it to make your groups better. Also, it's exciting to see new things that we're going to be doing together. So I'm excited about what we're building at Meetup, and I want everyone else to be too. So that's part of this, which is just sharing so we can all be excited about the future that we're creating together. I'm going to stop talking for a minute, which is wonderful, and I'm going to lend this to Mike. So Mike, it is all you.
Hey, everybody. Like Dan said, my name is Mike. I get to be a product manager here at Meetup. And I also organize 2 groups. I had my second online event yesterday. I just want a quick note, it was so cool to see people so much more comfortable the second time around than they were the first time. We opened the call and people were ready to kind of socialize. It was starting to normalize this idea of video chatting over events with new people. So that was really exciting to see. So a few weeks ago, we shared some of the work that is being done to make it possible for you organizers to schedule online events and meet with people together, even though you're not meeting in person. But today we wanted to share how that work really extends beyond just the scheduling and beyond the hosting and into the finding. Because what is a Meetup event without people actually attending? No one likes an empty video call. So I kind of wanted to share some of that. Just a few notes since we launched online events just about a month ago. It's been so exciting to see what y'all have been doing. Over 50,000 different groups hosting online events, and new groups trying this feature every day. Seen 250,000 events scheduled to be online, and people are actually going. This is what people are looking for. They're looking to connect with y'all, even if it's not in person, even if we have restrictions that are not allowing that. So 800,000 different people have been attending online events, and nearly 2 million people, 2 million different Rsvps to online events. This means that I was just looking, and just yesterday, 6,000 people said, yes, I'm going to go to an event that's upcoming. That was actually a significant. So on the same day that 6,000 people said, yes, I want to go to an event, around 4,000 people went. What that means is this rate of people that are engaging and going to online events is only going up. It's really exciting. And so huge props to y'all who are really leading that drive. So you're scheduling, but what about like we said, what about actually people finding the right events? That's one of the biggest questions we've received is, how do I find events that are online? So I want to share a little bit about some of the work that's happening with that. So what you're seeing here is a new homepage. This homepage is in a beta test. This means that people, 50% of people in a certain region who visit meetup.com while they're still logged out, they see this new page. And we run these kinds of tests to see how impactful and how effective is a new design. We don't want to assume always that new is better. We start with a smaller group and see how it performs and see what are the weaknesses that we can improve before we share with everyone. And so a few things to highlight. First, it's really cool to see that when you land on this page, we get to focus on the fact that the community can happen even through the screen. And so you got that cool picture. You have search right there. But when you scroll down and you see events that are happening near you, you see this tag, online events. And so right now I see just in these first 4 events I see 3 of them are online. And that's actually not a coincidence. We're making sure that the online events that you are scheduling are being promoted prominently. So I see some recommended events for me, and I can click through here and see. I can scroll down further and see specific categories, and again, see these ones that are online. If I keep scrolling, I'll be able to just skip to a category and sort further by a category that interests me. And again, just to remind, this page is a test that's visible to people who are logged out and are browsing Meetup. So let's say I find an event that looks good and I click on it. Here I see the description. I like that they use the title. They have online as a keyword to help with search. I obviously, like we know, you have to attend online in order to see the online event link. But you see in the upper hand corner, you might not have seen this before. This is something that's also part of the same beta test. And this is a universal search. This is a search that's visible whenever I visit to an event page when I'm logged out and a group page. And so if I'm interested, let's say I want to search for a music event. I know that, hey, meditation, maybe next weekend, but not right now. And so I search for music and I can click enter and I get some search results here. And again, in these search results, I see events that are near me, and I see this same labeling to make clear that these events are online. And so I can skip right to these ones. And again, even though not all of these are online, we're making sure that the ones that are online get the attention that they need. Now, this looks cool, but I also want to note that the most important part and one of the most valuable parts is what's happening behind the scenes. Search results just look like search results, but we have a team here at Meetup. We call them, they're called the machine learning team, and they're working to always improve the algorithm that generates search results. And so that when you search for these more detailed searches, that it's not just searching for keywords, but it's searching also for topic and for what the event is actually about and what the group is actually about. So just to go back, what you're seeing here is a little look at something that we're exploring for the future. This is only visible and is only in testing right now to people who are logged out of Meetup and are a part of a selected test. But over the next season, you'll see this expanding and evolving. And before it rolls out to everyone, we want to make sure that it's supporting your groups the best way it can. So that's all for me. I'll hand it back over to Dan.
Sure, hold on. In previous webinars, I was about to do the thing we were doing before, which is I'm going to reshare my screen. But we've gotten some comments in previous ones of these that when we're just talking and answering questions, it's weird to have most of the screen real estate taken up by a slide that just says like, we're answering questions. So trying to remember that feedback, we're going to leave it in this view for a little bit. I don't like when people look at me and I speak, so I'm just going to imagine that no one's looking. And we're gonna take a look at the questions window and start to go through those and answer. Give me a sec to reorient my screen so I can see the questions and the mic.
While you're doing that, I want to point one question that I see that I just want to really quick share. I see Neil said, when will you allow recurring online events? Neil, we launched it 2 weeks ago. So you can go on and you can go to schedule your next event. And when you check the box or make the switch to make it recurring, you can do that. You can also go to an event that you already have scheduled to be online and you can make it recurring.
Thanks. You can hop on any. I just saw this one first. I think Jay posted right when we started. I'll hit the answer live button. But I wanted to. Jay asked, "Can we use Webex instead of Zoom?" I didn't know if you meant for this or you meant for your online events. So for the first, I'll assume for your online events, the answer is yes, absolutely. We have lots of people using Webex. We don't mind. We'd actually like you to use whatever provider is right for you. So you should be able to paste Webex links into your online event link, and it should work fine. We have lots of people doing that. If you have any problems with that, please let our support team know. For this particular thing, if you want to give us feedback on the online events, please do. You can throw it into the chat window if you want. I'll try to catch it in a little bit, but we're always changing how we do these, so happy to take feedback. Let's see, going back to my big old list of questions.
I also just want to note while Dan's pulling that up, I see questions that are coming up in chat, but please direct the questions to the Q&A. We won't be referencing the chat for the Q&A or for questions.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Use the Q&A feature.
It's not to be mean, we just have lots of windows, so I want to make sure we don't miss anything.
Yeah.
This is really a cheap answer. I just wanted, Benjamin asked about how we're getting the layout, the side-by-side speakers plus the screen share. I don't know because I can only see the presenter side. But for someone who's looking at this, we're just using the Zoom like webinar setup. So it might be how your screen is oriented versus how we're doing something. So just as a side note, let's see, event page comments, okay. Kelly Smith, just a note about the email subject lines. Kelly Smith asked about overriding the subject lines. That's sort of what I was getting to with the communication tools. We are looking holistically at how we are letting organizers and members get in touch with each other and trying to do it in more efficient ways. I think there's actually several email tools that all have different versions of what you're talking about. So we are absolutely looking at that. Request duly noted, and it's on the docket for the things we're looking at in line with the communication tools I talked about. Let's see.
I see one question. This question was from the comments on the event page. Shane asked, can I ask if product development is going to be worldwide or just for the USA? Europe seems to be forgotten about in recent years. Such a good question. Dan and I work really closely together, and we recently were refreshing what are the steps that we need to do before we ever ship a new feature. And one of those things on that list is translations, is making sure that when this is a feature that's going global, that it's being translated into the languages it needs to be. When we push new features, we default to global. But once in a while, when we're testing things and it's something that's still a little bit in experiment mode, we'll focus on a certain region. So for example, what we shared before, that's focused on a certain region right now. It's not global, but there will never, once we know that that's a feature is ready for a wider audience, then yeah, that's the most exciting part of all, is when we get to ship it globally and let it be used and let it be taken advantage of by everyone. So we certainly have not forgotten. We're still translating content and making sure that features are reaching the wider Meetup community.
I see a question here. It's actually, we have a poll sort of related to this, so maybe we'll do the poll in a minute, but the question was, geolocation check. So someone asking, someone asked, can a person change the location to like the world rather than Manhattan? So now that we have online events, I have had people show up to mine. I think I've attended ones that are far outside of what would be my normal radius of travel. So I've been able to go to more meetups around the world than I was able to before. And it's great. I think there's a couple reasons why we haven't immediately enabled that global search. One of them is because part of what Meetup is doing is helping you find the right people for events and helping you as a member find the right events for you. Location is still important as a factor in that. The machine learning team that Mike referenced is actually working on ways to help sort of raise and lower the weighting of that factor so we can start exploring things further away. So we are working on that. But the thing that we're looking to learn right now is really about what people, when they ask for, hey, can I look globally? Or how can you promote my event to a global audience? What they're looking for. We've spoken to members. I understand the want to see what's available completely in the entire universe of Meetup that fits sort of in a time I can attend. And that we're working on in one respect. But I would love to ask, Cindy, can we start the poll about the outcomes for global events? So this is awesome. Thank you. I'm curious what outcomes you're hoping for if your events are promoted globally. If you haven't thought about this at all, feel no pressure to answer. But I would love to know, a couple groups we spoke to were like, oh, I just want people who used to be in my group but moved to be able to get into it. Some people said, people are traveling all the time for work and they can't come to my once a month meetup. I'd love to keep online events for them. So just really trying to figure out what the most important thing is for you. So that's sorry to answer a question with a question, but honestly, that's how we're thinking about it right now, is how do we get the most value out of this reach? And so how do we make the tool as useful as we can to do that? I hope that helps. Oh, that thing's still moving. As it settles down, we'll share results and talk about it.
I see one question. This is from Silvana. When saving an event to my Google Calendar, would you please save the Zoom meeting number, link, password to the calendar event? Yes, great question. Not great question, great request. And yes, we will do that. When we launched online events as quickly as possible, and we said, what are the things that are absolutely necessary to get out the door, and what are those extra little bonuses that aren't necessarily absolutely necessary, but are really helpful, and this is one of those. And so this is something that's right up close on the queue to be addressed. So just to share with everyone, when I RSVP to an event, the first thing I see is a box that pops up and says, do you want to add this to your calendar? We want to make sure that when you do add it to your calendar, you're not just adding the title of the event and the time of the event, but you're also adding the link to join the video conference call. Now, my only warning with that is that sometimes the video conference call can update or can change depending on organizer. So it's always good to double check on the event page or in the app before the event happens. But that's the least we can do, is make sure that that's saved to the calendar. So yes, that is coming.
Also, similarly, I think Karen Nash, I'm looking for it to mark it as answered, but Karen Nash asked about multiple day online events. One of our presenters a couple weeks ago was asking about this because she was doing a scavenger hunt with her running group and saying that it's like a week long. So the event is longer than a normal event because it's asynchronous now. And so we've been talking a little bit about what that means, that it's probably not quite as easy an answer as like, sure, we can do that, because we want to make sure that it doesn't have undesirable side effects, but also on the list for considerations, we look to enhance online events. Any of those things, please feel free to write our support team with ideas that they'll get to us. Contact us in forums like this, comments, on our public forums, but that would be really, really great. We are working to make online events more full featured. Like we said, they're a permanent part of Meetup. Oh, shoot, I just lost this comment. One person asked, Madeline, you asked, are you still looking for people to help test your products? The answer is always yes. For some reason, I can't type answers in that window. It just dings at me. But if I could, I would say yes. One of the best ways is if you get an email from our research team or product team with a survey. Often when we ask for your opinion, one of the last questions is, would you be willing to talk to us more? So if you get a survey asking for your opinion, usually they take like a minute or two. And the question we ask them there about doing more is actually getting involved in a test. So explicitly, that's probably the easiest way. I will always try to find people. So I'll think a little bit more about how to create an explicit opt-in for organizers to go to a place and sign up for something. So thank you for the suggestion. I'll try to make it better. The other one I really wanted to hop in was Jamie Morris said, is the Meetup product team aware of features removed over the past couple of years that the group organizers really value? Since I got here about a little less than a year and a half ago, I have spoken to so many organizers who have asked some version of that question. The simple answer is yes, now we certainly are. I certainly am. What I wanted to share that might be useful is I think part of what things like this are hoping to achieve is we need to be talking more about what we're doing so it's not seemingly random or imposed upon you. Often things that have been removed were removed for maybe a good reason, but I don't know that it was shared adequately. And I'm also not sure that you were given an alternative or coached through that change. Our support team is phenomenal. I can tell you for the past, I've been on Meetup for about 11 years as a member and an organizer for a little less than 2. So I've seen both sides, but the organizer side more recently. So I think I joined post, if you're an organizer who's been here longer, I'm a post 2017 organizer where Meetup went through a decent redesign. So I was not around for that piece. What I will say is I have had features that I really like not work as well as I want them to, which is a little different. But I guess my answer is yes. We will continue to try to be open and communicate about what we're changing, why we're changing it, and giving alternatives where that's necessary. It is very likely some functionality that is not widely used or supported now will go away over the next year. That's actually to make the things that everyone is using better and continue to improve upon them more quickly. So I can't promise we won't remove anything, but I want to explicitly say, like, I hear you, we hear you, and we will do our darndest to give you alternatives when we do have to remove something, or at least explain why we're removing it and how that will benefit you in other places of organizing your community and your groups and your events.
There's one question here from Peter that I like because he's being he's sneaky and he's thinking ahead. He goes, "Well, why? I thought Meetup was mobile first. That site you showed doesn't look like it's mobile first. So I just thought I would share a little demo of what the discovery page would look like on mobile, and it works. It does a fancy scroll thing, and you scroll down, and I can click on this category, and I see the results." And I see this little icon, the Island event icon is different, but we made sure definitely it's absolutely important. Most event discovery happens on mobile. So it's definitely important that mobile is always a big part of that. Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, it's something that we look at and often actually design for first. The challenge of designing for a little screen and a person on the go is really fun and really difficult. And we have a lot of interesting stuff to promote because y'all make great events and go to great things. So it is a constant challenge. Please do challenge us on that. If you see something that's working not as well as you want on a small display, you should tell us. That's not great. Just another note on that, which is we have been working really hard. We have a team here who spent a good amount of time working on making our site more accessible for people with different needs. And it's something we're committed to continuing to do. I think it's not just small screens, it's other screens, different types of readers. And that's something that we've brought to the fore of our product development so that it's never far from the top of our minds. So as we go to release things, I think Mike referenced the checklist we go through to make sure it's a fully baked feature that's ready for our global audience. That's one of those things, which is this accessible to people on multiple devices? So that includes a phone versus a desktop. That also might include a screen reader or a high contrast display. So we're working on those, and they really do go hand in hand. And it does also link back to that global comment, which is we don't want to deliver low quality globally. So if we are slow occasionally at getting something, to across the entire globe, or you see something in your region or your language which feels wrong, like we didn't do it quite right, please tell us. That is something we're actively improving. So happy to hear feedback there, especially. Sorry for the dead air. I should put the music on between looking at questions.
Paul asked a question: how can we access more members? Or we can now access more members, but how can we offer our members better events that are more interesting? So, for example, a survey tool maybe would be helpful. Yes, that I think resources that go towards making an event successful is a conversation that we have a lot at Meetup. And Dan can speak to that a little bit more, but I want to note just kind of a pro tip for since we're online, we can get way more creative with the resources that we use. We have this thing called the internet in everyone's hands. And so last night I wanted to do a sticky exercise just to kind of read the room. And so I searched on the web, I searched for online sticky exercise, and I found that someone made a Google Sheet presentation that is basically like a sticky board, and you can copy and paste stickies. And on Google Sheets, you don't need an account in order to edit. So all I did was I shared that link, and we did a few sticky exercises just to get our ideas out on the board. That wasn't Meetup doing it, but there's so many good materials. I think that's something also. I'm going to share that my personal tip with our team that works in the blog, and I wonder if we can aggregate any other tools that we found that if you have some,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, please share.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've
highlight those.
The team's been doing an awesome job on the blog. There's some articles there about event templates that include some of this stuff. We'll continue to post. Yes, Meetup is absolutely looking at adding the right core functionality to help bring your events, to be both more interactive and more bring more value to you and your members. I think that's where we're walking the line of we want to do that both for in-person and online. Right now on online, we're even relying on the polls in Zoom right now, and they work great for Zoom, but they don't work for everybody, and not everyone's using Zoom. Totally hear you, and thank you for bringing it up. If you have ideas, share them for now so we can share more widely. And like we kind of always do as organizers, we share tips with organizers, so please do share. Someone, Infinity, asked, I'm getting a consistent 50 to 70% no-show rate on my online events. Is this typical? I wanted to say, I can't entirely tell you typical. It's harder for us to gauge like the show ups online right now. It's something we're looking into figuring out more, but I will say that having spoken to several people, that's not unheard of at all. I think that the no-show rate, it's easier to commit to, and I think at this point, speaking from someone who's currently sitting in the Midwest, but generally the eastern part of the US, the Zoom fatigue is real. I've been on conference calls all day. And so personally, I have accidentally blown off something at night because I just didn't think to get back on my computer. So I think I've been seeing myself abandon slightly more. Speaking to other organizers last week, we were talking about the fact that it was about, 50% no-show rate. I can't tell how different that is from your normal group attendance, but we were saying it's not dissimilar to what we were seeing in person, but it is different, and it was different people. So a lot of things have shifted, but I would just say it's not unheard of, and you're certainly not alone in seeing that. I would ask other organizers in the room to share tips. We can try to get some tips out there for how to, I think, present the information beforehand to help make sure people understand what it is and come in. And then a good practice I've been doing is I typically message my members just to remind them right before. Meetup does an automated one. I usually do one a lot closer with online events, like an hour or two before, and say, hey, don't forget we're signing in here.
We have, Dan, do we want to share some of the poll results on that?
Oh, yeah, please do. Thank you.
So the question was, awesome. Yeah, thank you. So what outcomes are you hoping for in your events promoted globally? Okay, a new audience.
Great, that's really, really useful. And actually the two things that I see, the bottom two options are not dissimilar to what I have heard, and the proportions seem about consistent with what we would guess. So this is nice to see. Obviously, again, we're sampling at, there are 100 people or something, so this is not all of the Meetup universe, but we're going to keep asking this question and do some more active outreach to see how to bring the right new audience. I think it's tempting. It's been tempting for us to sort of open the floodgates, but as we've tested things like that, getting lots of people, like the previous example, to just Rsvp, but not be able to make it because of time zone, or not realizing what they're getting into, or possibly having people join for a short-term gain, but not really be active in your community, is also not necessarily the best outcome. So we are actively working on that. Suggestions totally welcome. We have a couple more minutes. I'm just surfing through the Q&A to make sure we're getting not just questions I saw before.
There's one question I want to answer, but we don't have to. I don't want to spend too much time. This one touches my heart. Ray asked, "What happened to Meetup experiences? What worked and what didn't?" Oh, I love that second question. So Meetup experiences, we learned that people like quality. They like great, solid events, and they're actually ready to pay ticket fees. I worked at Meetup for 2 years before I worked on the experiences team, and I was a little afraid. I was afraid people are so used to going on Meetup and finding free events, and I learned that that's not the case. There was a little while where on Meetup experiences, our average ticket fee was like $68. People were ready to pay. Now, obviously, things are a little bit different with coronavirus, but we've taken a lot of the lessons from Meetup experiences that focus on quality, the focus on templates, on having a consistent design that shows an overview and agenda of what the event is, and the learning that people are ready to pay. And we're definitely considering those things and thinking about those things as we envision Meetup going forward. So that work has not been lost. And it will apply to New York City, it will apply to Chicago, like Meetup Experiences was, but it will also apply globally too.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think so. One of the great things about having Mike on the team is he has all that experience and brings it with him, but also the team who work in that is here and in various places, and those learnings have sort of been infused into the company. One of them, Karen, you asked a question about what payment options for members can we see in the future? Is Stripe an option? My quick answer is, yeah, we would like to bring you better payment options. We actually did a test only ending a few weeks ago of using a new ticketing backend. It went pretty darn well. It's prioritized to bring that along with some of the other tools to the whole of Meetup at some point this year. So you can expect that as another thing. I didn't make slides to preview it, but it's not quite as sexy, but as a member, it's a heck of a lot easier because it's like a normal one-page checkout flow where you're like, I want to go. Great. That's it. So we're getting there quickly. Just want to call out that there's a person here called Seal the Deal, CEIL, who I've been speaking to in messages as an organizer who's volunteered help. So it's just nice to see you here in a live event also. Thank you for coming. You had asked whether we plan to bring back sponsors, the capability sponsors. Just quickly, yes, we are looking at that as it's not bring back would be probably the wrong thing. It's not taking what we had and turning it back on. I think it's more looking at how do sponsorship play a role in the Meetup ecosystem, and how do we bring that value to you and to your members so that the right brands are sponsoring or the right people are sponsoring. They have good ways to promote them. It's a good synergy between the group and the sponsor. I think that part was somewhat working, but we want to help facilitate that match. And I think we're also looking, like I said, to really bring that to more of a core Meetup functionality. I don't have an exact answer for like when or the depth of that functionality, but just wanted everyone to know that is on our radar as one of those things that was sort of removed or hidden or changed that is still actively in conversation and likely to hit the roadmap at some point in the near future.
I know we're just at the time, but I just want to note that y'all can't see it. That's a limitation of Zoom, but we've gotten over 100 questions in. We're answering as many as we can. It breaks my heart that we can't answer them.
Yes.
We're not answering your question because we're dodging something. It's answering because we only have so many minutes, but I want to do more of these, and we should definitely keep these going. There's so many great questions.
Yeah, thank you. We will attempt to answer them asynchronously on our blog via social. Please keep coming to this. I'm going to share my screen again for the most anticlimactic thank you slide. But really, thank you for joining. Go to the blog, subscribe to the newsletter. Your support is awesome in all of this, and your partnership is even better. So thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.